This is the Vanguard podcast, and I'm Gavin Miller Broomfield. And today we've been joined by Adrienne Bell, who's running to oust the incumbent Republican Representative Randy Weber in Texas's 14th congressional district. Thank you so much for joining us today, Adrienne. You were just telling me that you're getting ready for some school stuff. Is that correct? I know you're a teacher.
Yes, I am a second grade teacher, and we're going to start, doing virtual instruction. So getting things set up so that I can be ready. September 8th, we start school.
Okay, that's interesting. So in your district in Texas, have they pushed it back to September, or is that the normal start date?
They pushed it back to start on September the 8th. As a teacher, we started back this week. Well, actually,
Okay.
yeah, we started back this week. And so we go, 2 weeks prior. But they did start later, 2 weeks, probably about 2 weeks later. And we're going to start with virtual instruction for at least 6 weeks.
That's really interesting. I mean, you're running a pretty major congressional campaign right now. You were endorsed by Our Revolution in the primary, and then after your win in the primary, you got the endorsement of Barack Obama and Beto O'Rourke, some more establishment big name Democrats. What's that like? Running a campaign like you are right now, while also preparing to go back to teach second graders?
Well, it's what regular folk have to do. Running for office. And that's why we need to get big money out of politics, because a lot of candidates, people that I know, we, say regular folks, we still work full time. We can't not work or, just run the campaign. We have full-time lives. And so it's what we do. And so it's a lot going on, admittedly so, but this is so important that we take this seat back for the people, that we just push through and we just run hard.
And what is your main primary message to the voters of Texas's 14th district? What's the case you're making exactly for them to, oust the current representative?
Well, this is about the seat, and it's about taking the seat back, because it's a seat that's not being used for the people. And the voices of the people in this area have been silenced. Texas 14 is an area that's about 42% minority. And we have a huge pocket of people that are not voting because they don't feel like they have any need to vote, any reason to vote. And so we have been talking to voters, even, during the pandemic. We go out, we're not going out with conversations and knocking on doors, but still being visible. And then also making sure that people really understand that their vote is important, and that they have someone that wants to represent them and represent their interests and, their families and what it is that they want to achieve. And right now, with the polarized national climate that we have, people need an advocate. We've got so many people out here hurting, and it's as if Congress is deadlocked and not getting things done for the people. So people understand that, and they want some help, and that's what this campaign seeks to do, is to be a leader, but to be a servant leader for the people.
I noticed in reading that your district was previously represented from 1997 to 2013 by Ron Paul, the Libertarian, and that made me think: is the electorate in the 14th, somewhat independent-minded, libertarian-minded? Obviously Ron Paul caucused with the Republicans for the most part, but he definitely represented a more populist and anti-corruption, anti-war, sect of that vote. Do you still see that present in the electorate, and are you playing to that at all?
Well, we still see one of the very unique things about this district. There's a lot of cities that are represented here. Now, the district that Ron Paul represented was the lines were redrawn.
Oh, okay.
And so, yeah, it's it's a little bit more gerrymandered than when Ron Paul was here. And so, but we still have a lot of. This is Texas. We are very independent-minded, mm-hmm. and we're very open to doing things our way. And so we have, like I said, we have a pocket of voters that have not been engaged, may have come out and voted 2008, 2012, and did not come back out in 2016. And so we are seeking, even working with local candidates, because, everything starts local, and that boat rises, to make sure that we are motivating voters so that we can get Democrats elected up and down the ballot, and not just, federal office, but we need the judges. Um, we need judges. We got some drainage district personnel running, but we've just got, different positions, and we need to fill up those slots.
Absolutely. Well, I saw that you won your primary race pretty handily, with 60% of the voters. So could you mind just telling me a little bit about the primary process, how that went, and how exactly you pulled off that victory?
Well, we had 4 opponents in that race, and we did win with 60% of the vote. I knew we were going to win. You know how you just, I didn't know we'd win by such a large margin. And people told me, they said, there is no way you're going to not have a runoff. Oh. And I was, thinking, I am not going to have a runoff because, I don't want to have a runoff because it's just more money running against another Democrat when we need to be keeping our resources to, run against a Republican. But it was the same process. I believe in working hard. I believe in being involved in the community and talking to people. And, I ran in 2018 and we got 92,000 votes, which was the most that a Democrat had gotten, in the midterm here. And so that played well into our primary. We didn't lose. We gained. We didn't lose our base of people. We had the name recognition. Yeah. And so one thing that has been happening in this district has been a new person running every election. Mm-hmm. And so when I ran in 2018 and run again in 2020, we haven't had that out here. So the name recognition helps people. It takes these are big districts, and you just run out of time. And yeah. I've been doing this since 2017, and you still don't have enough time to do all that you need to do, meet all the people you need to meet. So running for congressional office is not glamorous, and it takes a lot of effort.
I'm glad you mentioned the fact that, running again has given you a bit more of an advantage with the name recognition. Of course, Cori Bush, who's also been on this podcast, she also had to run a few times, of course, before she was able to make it over the finish line. And I just think it's so important for this movement and progressive candidates in general to not get demoralized by a first-time loss because, yeah, sometimes it does take a couple runs. Have you been able to connect with people that agree that the district has not been represented properly? Is there a overwhelming feeling to you that the current representative, Randy Weber, is not doing his job properly? Like, do you get that sentiment from voters?
You get that sentiment, and that also he is not available. We did a poll, and one of the top concerns was transparency. He doesn't hold town halls. He's been holding some tele-town halls where he may give notice 15 minutes before it starts, mm-hmm. On Facebook, that we're having this tele-town hall, and it's not really interactive. So a lot of people really want to be involved, and they want their representative to know what matters to them. And so one thing that I'm going to do in representing the office is to make sure that we have office staff, and that the office is open and available to people, and that you don't receive a form letter when you have a concern. It's not a one letter fits all type of situation, that we actually offer customer service, and we actually listen, and we actually have partnerships in our office, with the youth, and have like a youth panel and community leaders, to where we have the pulse of the community, and it's not where you can't find your representative or they're only with, their friends. No, it's representing the community. And it's just an overall feeling that he just has not been doing that. And he has voted no against, oh my goodness, practically every bill that has come up since 2018, whether it is violence against women, whether it is clean water, you name it, he's voted against it. He has a 2% rating, a lifetime rating for environmental, wow. Which is just, awful.
Yeah. And I'm guessing he, takes money from the fossil fuel industry and oil and all of that. I'm guessing he's not also running a clean campaign like you are from the campaign finance perspective.
Exactly. No, he's not. He's not beholden to the constituents.
Hmm.
You're beholden to special interest. And, I always say, like, I admire Shirley Chisholm and how she said she'd go to office, she was unbossed and unbought. And I think that's the only way we're going to get corruption out of politics, is that we are not bought by special interests, but you go to just represent the people. So we're running a grassroots campaign, small dollar donations, and no corporate PAC money, because it is one thing that I see. It is so much money involved in campaigns. You spend so many hours of the day on the phone trying to get, raise money, instead of doing the things that you need to be doing, and that's talking to voters.
Yeah. Well, what's the response been from the Democratic leadership to your campaign? Like I mentioned earlier, I saw that Beto and Obama had endorsed your campaign, but I mean, you're definitely running on some values that are not exactly present in the Democratic platform. You're running on a bold platform of universal health care and legalizing cannabis. Have they been supportive of your bid, and has that been beneficial to your campaign?
Well, I believe the support is there because I am the Democratic nominee, and we're going to run a bold campaign. I had someone tell me, not from Democratic leadership, but someone tell me that you can't win out in this district and advocate for Medicare for all. Well, that's what I believe. I believe that everyone needs health care insurance. And in Texas, we've got the highest uninsured health care rate in the nation. And how can we not say that health care is a right and everyone needs it? And so I'm, running on the values that the people want. We talk about affordable housing. We need affordable housing. We need to raise the minimum wage. We need to stop locking up Black men and brown men and, end mass incarceration. We got so many needs. And it's not radical. It's just common sense of what do the people need? What are we going to fight for? And that we just stand up and we just do it. And that's what we're doing. It's going to be bold. It's going to be what the people need, but we need policy change. We've had enough of talking. We need officials in office that's going to push to get policies that are going to benefit working people and their families.
Absolutely. And another on the same topic of, kind of supporting these more progressive priorities, you've also discussed joining Representatives Barbara Lee and Sheila Jackson Lee in support of the Marijuana Justice Act, which is the legislation to legalize cannabis across the country, expunge the records of nonviolent drug offenders with cannabis-related charges, and establish a fund to reinvest in communities that have been devastated by the war on drugs. I think this is such an important piece of legislation because it not only, takes cannabis off of the Schedule 1, but it also makes a point to reinvest that money into the, communities that have been so devastated by these racist, harmful policies. And also, in addition to expunging the records, why do you think that there's so few representatives on board with this? And what exactly is your plan to, push a piece of legislation like this into law if, you're elected into Congress and Speaker Pelosi is still the speaker and, perhaps Joe Biden is the president, someone who hasn't exactly voiced support yet for legalizing cannabis? What's your strategy as far as pressuring the Democratic leadership a little bit to the left, maybe in this instance?
I think we keep talking. I think we're going to have more people that get elected to Congress like Corey, that are more, or Jamal Bowman, that's more open and more with what the people need. When you look at something about like expunging records for those that are in prison with marijuana cases, well, you also, for me, it plays also into the fact that they should be able not only to have those records expunged, but also to enter that market. That is a very lucrative business. And you are excluding a lot of people who were caught up in the war against drugs. You're excluding them from being able to be a part of that. I met a 70-year-old man my first time when I was running, and he came to me. He came to an event that I had, and he's like, "Ms. Bell," he said, "I just want to know one thing." And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Are you for legalizing marijuana?" And I'm like, "Yes, sir, I am." He said, "That's all I wanted to know." He said, "I'm 70. He said, "All my friends, in our 70s. And I came as a representative, and we just wanted to know how you felt about legalizing marijuana. So it's not just an issue of young people or, it's an issue. And so it's something that we just got to keep talking about it and talking to people and convincing them that this is what our communities need. Yeah. And what can we do to build our communities? This is one way we can put money back into our communities. And like you say, the ones that have been greatly affected by the war on drugs.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of the war on drugs and some of the protests we're seeing against, the police forces across the country right now, I was recently talking to Savion Wright from Austin, Texas area, and he was telling me about how they voted to pretty much defund 1/3 of the police budget and reallocate it into other, resources for those communities that have been affected. I thought that was a pretty cool step forward and for that movement. Do you think there's any hope of something like that passing in your district? I know you're not, going to be working at the local level necessarily on that kind of legislation, but do you see any sort of hope for that? Any progress being made on the battle of ideas, I guess?
I haven't heard of much talk about the restructuring, of budgets in our areas. Austin is a different city in Texas. It's it's
for sure.
It's a different city. And it's a really good thing that they were able to do so. One thing that we started talking about is being able to get together at the table with shareholders and talk about the police violence that's going on, making sure that we can build back the trust in our communities and come together to see what is needed so that we can go from the local to the federal and introduce legislation of this is what we need. This is what our community needs, because we've got a crisis going on that we have to address. And so that's one thing that I want to accomplish in 2014 is something I've already made a call out about and invited. Because I'd like for us to be able to sit down and come up with solutions of what are we going to do to bridge the community and to bridge the police as well. So we're going to work on that.
Cool. One last question I had for you. Are there any debates coming up with you and your opponent? Are you hoping to engage with him, in a public event or forum?
I have heard of no debates that are coming up. I would love to have a debate with him and be able to talk about our vast differences that we have and how I would manage the district and lead, and how versus what he considers to be leadership. I've heard of nothing about debate, but I definitely would welcome one with him.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the voters of Texas's 14th district definitely deserve such a conversation, given how, different your platform clearly is than that of Randy Weber, and not just that, but how bold and really populist it is in its approach to, legislation and addressing the issues that are actually affecting the most vulnerable people in society, which is, what our representatives should be and need to be doing. So I thank you so much for embracing a platform and being brave enough to run on these ideas that, the people are begging for, essentially.
Thank you
so much for your time. And is there anywhere, of course, and is there anywhere where people can donate to your campaign or find out a little bit more about you and your platform?
Yes, you can go to my campaign website is voteforbell.com, and it's VOTEFORBELL.com. You can sign up to volunteer. We definitely can use phone callers across the country to make calls into our district to call voters, and you can make a contribution while you're there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Adrienne. I really enjoyed the conversation, hearing a little bit about your platform and ideas, and I wish you the best of luck in this campaign. I think you have a great shot of winning, and the people of the district deserve the kind of representation that you're offering.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about Texas 14. We did not get hit by a hurricane, and we are just we're an area that really they need some love, a good representative, and that's who I am for them. So thank you so much for thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Have a great one.